Let's be honest. Most men have had that experience where they meet a woman and the vibe just isn't there. Maybe she's polite, maybe she's cold, maybe she doesn't notice you at all. And while the average guy walks away thinking she's out of my league or she's just not into me, the truth is, attraction can be built, if you know how. This video isn't about tricks, lines, or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about understanding how masculine energy works in the presence of feminine instinct. Because what most men don't realize is that a woman's first impression of you isn't final. What matters more is how you carry yourself after that moment. That's where everything changes. You're not here to chase. You're here to magnetize. That means you don't rely on surface level attention. You create a presence, a frequency, a clarity in your identity that makes her reconsider everything she thought about you the first time she looked away. We're going to break down exactly how to do that, step by step. Not with gimmicks, but with grounded, powerful truths that shift how she sees you. And more importantly, how you see yourself. By the end of this, you'll understand how to walk into any room and create gravity. You'll learn how to plant seeds of attraction in a woman's mind, even if her interest wasn't there from the start. And you'll finally stop operating from a place of need and start operating from a place of quiet command. Because once you learn how to live in your center, interest isn't something you chase, it's something you attract. Your presence is the first hook. Before you ever say a word, she's already sizing you up. Not just by your looks, but by your energy. Presence is the first thing that enters the room, and for most men, it's either forgettable or magnetic. If a woman isn't interested in you initially, it's not always about your appearance. Often it's because your presence didn't register as something to pay attention to. Let's break that down. Presence is a combination of how you carry yourself, how aware you are of your surroundings, and how deeply rooted you are in yourself. Most men walk into a room already on edge. They're scanning for approval. They're worried about saying the right thing. Their energy is scattered, seeking, not grounded. And that energy reads as insecurity. It's not threatening, it's not interesting, it's invisible. A man with presence enters a room differently. He's not trying to impress, he's observing. Calm, sure. Not because he's trying to look confident, but because he's not trying at all. His posture is relaxed, his eye contact is clean, his breathing is steady. That energy alone makes people notice, especially women. Think of Maximus in Gladiator. He doesn't need to raise his voice to command attention. It's his stillness that makes others lean in. His presence doesn't ask, it declares. That's the energy you cultivate when you stop trying to impress and start embodying purpose. I once worked with a client who struggled to be noticed, especially in social settings. We didn't change his look or give him lines. We taught him how to slow down, to stop fidgeting, to breathe deeper, to walk into a space and own his rhythm. Within weeks, women were noticing him without him having to approach. Why? Because his presence became felt instead of forced. Here's the key. Women are deeply intuitive. They feel before they think. If your energy says, I need something from you, they sense it and shut down. But if your energy says, I'm good either way, they become curious. They want to know what makes you so grounded, so unaffected. Your presence creates the question in her mind. Who is this man? That question is your opening. And no, this doesn't mean being aloof or distant. It means being fully rooted in yourself, so much so that you don't need her to notice you for you to feel like a man. Ironically, that's exactly what gets you noticed. You don't attract with effort, you attract with gravity. And gravity comes from inner stillness, certainty, and direction. Before you try to speak to her, touch her world with your presence. If you can master that, interest won't just spark, it'll shift. Shift. Her emotional state, not her mind. Most men try to convince a woman to like them. They use logic, conversation, or compliments to win her over. But here's the secret. Women aren't attracted through logic. They're attracted through feeling. If you want to change how a woman sees you, don't argue your value. Change how she feels in your presence. Because if she starts to feel differently when you're around, she'll start to think differently about you. Attraction isn't built in her head. It's built in her nervous system. When a woman isn't interested at first, it's usually because you haven't triggered an emotion that stands out. You haven't interrupted her current emotional state. She's bored, distracted, annoyed, or just indifferent. Most guys try to be overly polite or agreeable in this moment, thinking it'll make them seem respectful. But neutrality doesn't shift attraction. It blends into the background. You have to spark something alive. This doesn't mean being loud or cocky. It means introducing a different frequency. Humor, mystery, calm confidence, even playful tension. Think about how James Bond interacts with women. He's not jumping up and down trying to impress them. He's calm, but there's always a playful undertone, like he's hiding something. He teases lightly, listens fully, and never rushes the moment. That creates an emotional shift. It's subtle, but it's powerful. I once coached a guy who kept being labeled nice. Women liked talking to him, but never pursued anything further. When we broke down his conversations, I noticed he always kept things too safe. So we adjusted one thing. Instead of asking boring, predictable questions, he started asking deeper, edgier ones, but playfully. Instead of, "Where are you from?" he'd say, "You strike me as someone who used to be a troublemaker. True or false?" That tiny change sparked emotion, playfulness, curiosity, and with that, their energy changed. You're not trying to force a reaction, you're trying to evoke one. When you make a woman feel differently than she did before you walked in, she starts to associate you with that shift. You become the experience, not just the guy. That's the beginning of attraction. Think of it like music. A song doesn't need to explain why it's good. It makes you feel something. You don't analyze it. You vibe with it. Be the man who knows how to create a shift in the room. Let your calm, your edge, your timing, or your humor change the emotional climate. That's where interest lives. You don't win a woman over by changing her mind. You win her over by creating a moment she didn't expect and can't forget. When she feels something different with you, she'll start seeing you differently too. Be unavailable in the right way. Scarcity builds value. But most men misunderstand what that really means. They think playing hard to get means ignoring her, delaying replies, or pretending not to care. That's not mystery, that's immaturity. Real scarcity doesn't come from games. It comes from purpose, from living a life that demands your attention. And when a woman feels that your time, energy, and focus are already claimed by your mission, she starts to see you as someone whose presence is earned, not assumed. If a woman isn't interested in you at first, it might be because you seem too available, not just physically, but energetically. You linger, you hover, you make her feel like you have nothing more important to do. Even if you are respectful, if your life seems empty outside of her, she's not going to feel drawn in. She's going to feel like she's the only exciting thing in your world, and no high-value woman wants that weight. Think about The Dark Knight. Bruce Wayne is rarely available, emotionally or physically, not because he's ghosting anyone, but because he's consumed by something bigger than himself. That obsession, that focus, that distance, it creates allure. Women around him sense that his time isn't something you get for free, you earn it. I once worked with a man who had a pattern of texting women back instantly, making himself open for anything they suggested and clearing his schedule just to see them. Respectful? Sure. Attractive? Not quite. Once we changed his approach, had him prioritize his gym time, his creative work, his own friends, it shifted. Women started leaning in. They'd say things like, "You've been hard to catch lately." That's attraction born from a subtle shift in energy, not a forced act. Here's what matters. Don't make her your center. Let her notice that she's not. Let her see that your life is already full, and that if she wants to be part of it, she has to rise to your standard, not the other way around. Being unavailable in the right way also communicates one critical message. You're not desperate. You don't need her attention to feel like a man. And that self-sufficiency is magnetic. Because deep down, every woman wants a man who is whole without her, but chooses to share himself with her anyway. The irony is, when you stop chasing every opportunity to interact and start investing in your life like it actually matters, you become the kind of man who naturally attracts interest, even from women who were indifferent before. Scarcity only works if what's rare is valuable. So make your time, your energy, your presence something worth experiencing, and then protect it. She'll notice. And if she's the right kind of woman, she'll lean in. Not because you forced her to, but because your life pulled her in. Speak to her identity, not just her image. One of the most overlooked ways to attract a woman, especially one who isn't initially interested, is to bypass her surface and speak directly to her identity. Most guys never make it past the exterior. They compliment her looks, her outfit, maybe her laugh. But if she's attractive, she's heard it all before. You're not standing out. You're blending into a crowd of forgettable admirers. But when you can tap into who she believes she is, or better yet, who she wants to be, you unlock something deeper. You create connection, curiosity, sometimes even desire. Because you're not just making her feel pretty. You're making her feel seen. Let's say you meet a woman who's elegant, well-dressed, and obviously used to being complimented. The average guy says, "You look amazing." You say, "You seem like the type who doesn't wait for permission to take the lead." That hits differently. It bypasses her physical appearance and touches her inner narrative, the one she may not even show most people. And when you reflect that back to her in a way that's confident and grounded, it causes a pause, a shift. Suddenly, you're not just another guy. You're someone who sees through the surface. This isn't about flattery, it's about perception. Deep, intuitive perception. I worked with a client who used this principle at a networking event. He met a woman who seemed cold, disinterested. Instead of trying to charm her, he simply said, "You strike me as someone who's extremely sharp but tired of shallow conversations." Her entire demeanor changed. She laughed, she opened up. That one line showed her he was tuned in, not to her looks, but to her essence. Think of Inception. Leonardo DiCaprio's character didn't plant ideas directly. He planted seeds in the subconscious, deep enough to grow on their own. Speaking to a woman's identity does the same. It's subtle. But once it lands, she starts replaying your words. Why did he say that? How did he know? You become memorable, not because you were flashy, but because you touched something real. This also separates you from men who pedestalize her. When you speak to her image, you reinforce what every guy sees. But when you speak to her identity, you challenge her. You invite her to rise into something more. And that dynamic, respectful tension mixed with insight, is deeply attractive. It's not about saying the perfect thing. It's about noticing what others miss. The fire in her when she talks about something meaningful, the confidence behind her sarcasm, the ambition hiding behind her routine. Point it out, not with cheesy lines, but with grounded, masculine clarity. Most women walk through the world being looked at, not seen. Be the man who sees. That's how you attract a woman, even one who wasn't interested at first. Know when to detach. Attracting a woman, even one who wasn't originally interested, is not about how long you hold on, but how well you know when to let go. The most underrated skill in masculine attraction is detachment, not coldness, not indifference, but the ability to walk away without resentment, knowing that your value isn't tied to her response. Here's the hard truth. Not every woman will be drawn to you, no matter how grounded, confident, or present you are. And that's okay. The goal is not to force attraction, it's to live in such alignment that only the right ones are drawn in and the wrong ones naturally fall away. Most men fail in this area. They get locked into proving themselves to a woman who's lukewarm at best. She shows minimal interest, sends mixed signals, and they interpret that as a challenge. So they double down. They give more attention, try harder, wait longer. and all it does is erode their power. You have to recognize when your presence is no longer being respected and be willing to remove it. Detachment isn't about bitterness. It's about knowing your energy is too valuable to be invested in dead ends. When you master this, you become rare, because very few men have the strength to leave a situation that strokes their ego but starves their spirit. There's a scene in The Pursuit of Happiness where Will Smith's character, broke and beaten down, still chooses to walk out of an internship interview because he refuses to be disrespected. He knows what he's worth, even when no one else does. That kind of quiet conviction is what makes a man powerful. I once worked with a client who was obsessed with a woman who never reciprocated his interest. They'd talk, flirt a little, but she always kept him on standby. After months of being emotionally hooked, he finally told her, "I like you, but I'm not going to keep showing up for someone who doesn't value my time." He walked. A week later, she reached out wanting to talk. Not because he manipulated her, but because his detachment signaled real value, not desperation, direction. This is where most attraction flips, not in the chase, but in the release. When a woman sees that you're willing to move forward without her, she either steps toward you or fades out. Either way, you win, because your value isn't on the line. Detachment also creates mystery. It makes her wonder why you're not begging, why you're not chasing, why you're not following the same pattern every other man does. That curiosity alone often plants the seed of attraction where none existed before. So if you've done the work, carried yourself well, sparked emotion, stayed grounded, and she still doesn't engage, let her go, not in anger, in peace. Because real attraction is never forced, and the man who walks away clean always walks away with power. Become the man. She didn't know. She wanted the final, and perhaps most powerful, way to attract a woman who wasn't initially interested is to evolve into the kind of man she didn't even realize she was drawn to. This isn't about changing who you are to please her. It's about stepping so fully into your masculine identity that you force her to reevaluate everything she thought she wanted. Many women walk around with an idea of their type. Maybe it's based on past relationships, fantasy, or social influence. But the truth is, most women don't really know what they want until they feel it, until someone walks into their life with a different kind of presence, one they didn't anticipate but can't ignore. You become the exception to the rules she thought she had. This happens when a man stops chasing women and starts chasing his edge. When he takes his physical health seriously, not to impress, but because he values his body. When he invests in his craft, not to brag, but because he has a mission. When he speaks with clarity, not to manipulate, but because he knows what he believes. That kind of energy doesn't just attract, it disorients. It breaks the script. It makes a woman pause and wonder, who is this guy? And why do I want to know more? I worked with a man who was constantly overlooked by women he admired. They said he was nice, sweet, and easy to talk to, but no one saw him as more. Instead of resenting it, he focused inward. He started boxing. He launched a side business. He cut off weak connections and built his circle with other men on a mission. Within months, women who previously ignored him started watching his stories, reaching out, asking about what he was building. What changed? Not his looks, not his charm, just his direction. Think of Rocky, not the polished champion version, the raw, overlooked underdog. The world didn't pay attention at first. But as he trained, focused, and developed into something sharper, everyone around him started to take notice, including the one woman who'd watched quietly from the shadows. This transformation isn't loud. It's not showy. It's not for the sake of proving anyone wrong. It's personal, quiet, relentless. And when you step into that energy, you become unpredictable, not because you're erratic, but because you're no longer trying to fit anyone's mold. You may not be her type at first, but once you start walking like a man who knows where he's going, you'll surprise her. You'll disrupt her emotional compass. You'll open her to the possibility that what she thought she wanted isn't what she actually needs. Attraction isn't about fitting into her fantasy. It's about becoming the man who shifts her reality. Become that man, not for her but for you. And let her discover that you were never the obvious choice. You were the right one all along. Master the art of calm tension. One of the most magnetic traits a man can develop is the ability to create calm tension. That subtle, unspoken energy between you and a woman that builds intrigue, attraction, and emotional electricity without ever needing to overstep. It's not about being overly sexual nor about being stoic to the point of robotic. It's about staying grounded while allowing the unspoken chemistry between you to breathe. Most men either rush this or ignore it entirely. Here's what happens with most guys. The moment they sense even a hint of attraction or desire it, they pounce. They get too talkative, too eager, too invested in saying the right thing. That intensity doesn't build tension, it kills it. Why? Because it communicates pressure, not confidence. It shifts the energy from possibility to pursuit. And most women check out mentally the moment they feel you want it, more than she does. Calm tension is the opposite. It's when you can be fully present, lock eyes with her, share a pause without rushing to fill it, and still hold your center. It's knowing when to lean in and when to pull back. It's letting the conversation ride naturally while staying slightly unpredictable. That rhythm, that edge, it keeps her in the moment. Think about Daniel Craig's James Bond. He doesn't fill the silence. He uses it. His posture, his tone, the way he lets his presence speak. Before his mouth ever opens, it creates an atmosphere. That's calm tension. And women feel it. It's what causes their tone to shift, their body language to soften, and their curiosity to rise. I had a client who always got stuck in the friend zone. The problem wasn't that he was boring. It was that he never created tension. He never let moments breathe. He never teased, paused, or played with rhythm. So we worked on just one thing, slowing down, pausing, holding eye contact 1 second longer, saying less, but with more weight. Within 2 weeks, women who previously saw him as just a friend were asking if he was seeing anyone. This skill doesn't come from pretending. It comes from stillness, from comfort with self. When you're okay with space, when you're not trying to impress, fill, or entertain, you become powerful. Because most people aren't okay with silence. Most men break the tension because they fear it. But the man who can sit in it, that man becomes unforgettable. Tension creates story. It invites imagination. It turns a simple interaction into a slow-burning scene that lingers in her mind. Not because you forced it, but because you held it. Calm tension is one of the deepest ways to shift a woman's perception of you, especially if she wasn't originally interested. It bypasses logic and taps into emotion, sensation, curiosity. So next time you're in a moment with her, don't rush it. Let it simmer. Be the calm. Let her feel the tension. And you'll become the memory she replays without even knowing why. There's a unique kind of confusion that hits a man when a woman who doesn't truly love him, doesn't want to be with him fully, and constantly causes emotional chaos, still won't let him go. She doesn't treat him right, but she also won't walk away. It messes with your head. You start wondering if there's something deeper keeping her there. You tell yourself maybe she's torn, maybe she's working through something. But the truth is much simpler and far more dangerous. Sometimes a woman won't let you go not because she loves you, but because she loves what you do for her. Your presence gives her validation. Your attention feeds her ego. Your consistency gives her comfort. And when you try to step away, when you finally start choosing your peace, suddenly she fights harder. That's not love. That's possession. That's emotional control. This video isn't going to recycle the tired tropes about clingy women or emotional girls. It's about a pattern, one you may have found yourself in more than once, where a woman who won't meet your needs somehow still keeps you emotionally hooked, and you're left thinking, maybe it's worth holding on. but it's not, because this isn't about romance, it's about control. You'll walk away from this with clarity on the exact reasons some women won't let go, even when they know deep down they should. You'll understand what's happening beneath the surface and, more importantly, how to break the cycle. This is about reclaiming your freedom, not from her, but from the illusions that keep you stuck. Because sometimes the hardest leash to see is the one made of mixed signals, fake tears, and just enough affection to keep you in place. So, here are the reasons why women like this won't let you go. She needs your energy to stay relevant. There are women who don't truly want to build a future with you, but they can't stand the thought of you moving on without them. Not because they miss you, but because without your energy, they feel irrelevant. This is one of the most common reasons women won't let you go. They've attached their sense of significance to your attention. Your energy as a man is powerful. It brings presence, structure, and direction. Even if you don't realize it, the way you listen, give, support, and remain consistent, it creates a gravitational pull. For some women, especially those who haven't built their own internal stability, that pull becomes addicting. You become the source that makes them feel like somebody. And once you try to remove that supply, it shakes them. They'll message you out of nowhere. They'll comment on your stories, accidentally, like an old post, or bring up inside jokes just to pull you back in. If you respond even a little, it restarts the cycle. She doesn't want the whole relationship, just enough connection to feel like she still matters in your world. It's emotional currency. You fund her self-worth, and she spends it to keep from facing her own emptiness. Think of The Social Network, the scene where Mark Zuckerberg creates Facebook to gain relevance, recognition, and attention he couldn't get in real life. Now imagine if he started losing it all, panic would set in. That's what happens to certain women when they feel your energy being withdrawn. It's not about you, it's about what you symbolize. You're her digital stage, her emotional mirror, her invisible crowd, and she doesn't want the show to end. A man I coached had broken things off with a woman who constantly played hot and cold. Yet months later, she was still watching all his stories, DMing him random thoughts, and even texting, "I miss our talks." But when he invited her to meet and talk seriously, she ghosted. She didn't want him back. She just wanted to know she still could have him. This is emotional vampirism. It's not malicious at first, but it becomes toxic over time. Because the longer you allow someone to feed on your energy without giving anything real in return, the more you drain yourself. Ask yourself, is she reaching out because she genuinely wants to grow, rebuild, and respect the relationship? Or is she trying to keep one toe in your world so she doesn't have to face her own? You're not here to be anyone's emotional life support. A woman who can't create relevance without you has no business being with you, because real love isn't fueled by neediness. It's built on mutual value and growth. When your energy becomes the only thing keeping her centered, it's time to step away and let her learn how to stand on her own. She's addicted to the power dynamic. Some women don't stay connected to you because of love or even comfort. They stay because of control. To them, the relationship is less about emotional connection and more about psychological positioning. If she can keep you emotionally uncertain, keep you guessing, keep you trying, then she holds the power. And power is addictive. This dynamic is built on imbalances. One day she's warm, the next she's cold. She opens up just enough to keep your hope alive, then pulls back and watches you chase. When you try to leave, she shows just enough affection or vulnerability to reel you back in. But the cycle never ends. Why? Because the point isn't resolution, the point is control. A woman caught in this loop doesn't want a stable, loving relationship. Stability would end the game. The moment you feel secure, the moment you stop chasing, she feels like she's losing her grip. So she creates tension to keep you locked in. It's emotional gambling. Just enough wins to keep you playing. Just enough losses to make you feel unsure. This is the same mechanism used in toxic leadership, manipulative coaching, or even cult-like environments. Give them a taste of approval, then withdraw it until they work harder for the next drop. In movies, it's the villain who smiles and hugs 1 minute, then threatens you the next, not because they're confused, but because they understand how to use unpredictability as control. One man I advised was stuck in this cycle for over a year. Every time he distanced himself, she'd send long emotional texts, even cry during phone calls. But as soon as he gave in and softened up, the dynamic shifted again. She became cold, indifferent, distracted. It took him months to realize it wasn't about love at all. It was about her maintaining the upper hand. This pattern hits men especially hard because it preys on their instinct to fix things. You think if you just say the right words, stay patient enough, or prove your loyalty, she'll become consistent. But she never does, because consistency kills the game, and she's not trying to lose control. This is not a woman who values partnership. This is a woman who values position. And as long as she's above you emotionally, she feels safe. The problem is, you won't. You'll feel drained, uncertain, off balance, constantly trying to earn something that should be given freely, mutual respect. Here's the truth. Love doesn't manipulate. Real women don't need power over you to feel secure with you. If you find yourself in a relationship where peace only comes when you're losing pieces of yourself, you're not in a bond, you're in a tug of war. And the only way to win a game that's rigged is to stop playing. She doesn't want anyone else to have you. This one hits deeper than most men expect because it disguises itself as passion. There are women who don't truly want you for life, but they can't stomach the idea of you being with someone else, not because they love you, but because the thought of another woman getting the version of you they didn't value properly feels like a loss to their ego. To her, you're not just a man. You're a symbol of what she could have had if she had done things differently. And every time you level up, heal, look better, or talk to someone new, it shines a light on what she let slip. That reflection doesn't always trigger love, it triggers possession. Men often confuse this with reconciliation. She comes back when you've moved on. She becomes sweeter when you stop chasing. She suddenly remembers all the good times when your attention has shifted elsewhere. But it's not about you. It's about what you represent. Validation, status, and a threat to her ego if someone else benefits from the man she once had easy access to. This is where the classic phrase, "I don't want him, but I don't want anyone else to have him either," comes alive. It's not just fiction, it plays out in real life constantly. She doesn't support you, doesn't build with you, but the moment she sees you shining in someone else's light, she returns. And if you take her back, she cools off again. The goal wasn't reconnection, it was disruption. Think about Rocky 3, when Clubber Lang taunts Adrian and Rocky. It wasn't about Adrian, it was about getting in Rocky's head. He knew if he could rattle the emotional structure, he could throw off the mission. Some women do the same. They don't want the real fight. They just don't want you in the ring with someone else. I once worked with a man who got into a new relationship after a painful breakup. Things were finally moving forward. He was focused, rebuilding, and his confidence was up. Out of nowhere, his ex reached out, not with apologies, but nostalgia. "Remember our late night drives? I miss our little jokes. No accountability, just reminders." Why? Because she saw him rising and couldn't handle the idea that someone else might enjoy what she once discarded. These tactics are designed to reopen emotional loops. They pull you out of the present and back into a version of the past that only existed in fragments. It's not a connection, it's an interruption. A woman who truly loves you wants the best for you, even if it's not with her. A woman who only wants to block your progress will always return at your most pivotal moments. Not to grow with you, but to make sure someone else can't. You owe it to yourself to protect your peace, not play pawn in someone else's emotional chess game. When her return feels more like resistance than reunion, don't hesitate. Keep moving forward. She's emotionally dependent on your stability. A lot of men underestimate how stabilizing their presence is in a woman's life, even when she doesn't treat them right. Some women won't let you go because you've become their emotional anchor, not through mutual love, but through dependence. You've become the one thing that helps her feel grounded, even if she can't give you peace in return. She might be a woman who constantly deals with emotional highs and lows. Maybe her life is unstable, mentally, financially, or relationally. She doesn't have strong support systems or self-discipline. But you're calm, consistent, you give structure, you answer the phone when she spirals, you talk her down from her anxiety, you offer guidance when she's lost. Over time, you become her emotional center, but she never becomes yours. It's easy to confuse this with being needed. And for many men, especially those with protective instincts, it feels like purpose. You're helping. You're making a difference. But this dynamic only works in one direction. When you need support, she disappears. When you express your needs, she shifts the conversation. When you want to build something long-term, she's suddenly not ready. But she still expects you to catch her every time she falls. This kind of emotional dependence can be hard to spot because it hides behind softness. She might cry in your arms, call you when she's feeling alone, or say things like, "I just feel safe with you." But real safety includes reciprocity. If she's only around when she's falling apart, and never when you're climbing, then you're not her partner. You're her emotional safety net. One man I worked with was constantly talking his ex-girlfriend through breakdowns. She had no plans of getting back together. She was dating other people, but every time something went wrong in her life, she came to him, and he always answered. Why? Because it felt noble, like he was the only one who could keep her from falling apart. But each conversation left him drained, confused, and stuck in the past. It wasn't about love, it was about her leaning on his strength without giving anything back. This is what happens when you confuse being useful with being valued. Your ability to remain composed and provide stability is a gift, but it should never be exploited. A healthy woman wants to build her own foundation, not just camp out on yours. She doesn't just take your strength, she adds to it. The right relationship strengthens both people. If only one person is constantly pulling the other out of the emotional mud, that's not connection. That's codependence. You're not a rescue mission. You're a man with a life, a path, and a limit. If she only shows up when she's low and disappears when you need balance, it's time to cut the cord. You're not her therapist. You're not her father. You're not her foundation. You're a man. And that deserves mutual strength, not one-sided survival. She's attached to the version of you that needed her. Sometimes a woman won't let you go, not because she loves the man you are now, but because she misses the man you used to be when you were more dependent on her. When you were unsure, when you placed her at the center of your world, when you looked to her for emotional direction, she was needed then, you leaned on her, she had influence. And now that you've grown out of that place, she feels like she's losing control, not just of you, but of her role in your life. Here's what makes this dangerous. It looks like love. She'll say things like, "You've changed," or "You used to be more open," or "I just miss how we used to talk." But what she's really saying is, "I miss being important in your story." Because as you become more grounded, disciplined, and focused, her old methods of keeping your attention stop working. And if she hasn't grown with you, she feels left behind. So she tries to pull you back to the version of yourself that she once had power over. It's the equivalent of a coach who only knows how to train rookies. The moment you start developing into your own player, with your own instincts and momentum, the coach feels threatened, not proud, because your independence removes their relevance. I had a client who used to call his girlfriend for every decision, big or small. She thrived on being needed. But once he started making moves on his own, switching jobs, managing his time better, setting goals, she became distant, then critical. She accused him of pulling away. But the truth was, he just didn't need her to manage his emotional world anymore. And rather than evolving with him, she tried to guilt him into staying emotionally dependent. Movies show us this too. Think of Good Will Hunting. Will's girlfriend didn't try to keep him small. She wanted him to leave Boston, to chase something greater, even if it meant losing him. That's real love. Real love wants to see you expand, even if it's uncomfortable. But not every woman is built for that. Some are only comfortable when they're the emotional center of gravity. This kind of attachment isn't about romance. It's about identity. If her sense of value was wrapped up in being your guide, she'll struggle when you no longer need guidance. And instead of celebrating your evolution, she'll resist it. Not always with anger, but often with subtle guilt, nostalgia, or emotional withdrawal. You have to recognize when someone loves your potential versus when they love your progress. The former wants to help you but keep you small. The latter wants to grow with you side by side. If a woman clings to the version of you that was uncertain, it's not a sign to shrink back. It's a signal to keep moving. You're not here to stay soft so someone else can feel strong. When your growth becomes a threat to her influence, it's time to let go. She's afraid to start over. There are times when a woman won't let you go simply because she doesn't want to start over. Not just romantically, but emotionally, logistically, even socially. You've become familiar, predictable, comfortable. Letting go of you doesn't just mean losing the relationship, it means facing the unknown. And for many people, the unknown is scarier than staying in something broken. This isn't about love, it's about convenience mixed with fear. She knows things aren't working, she knows she's not treating you the way you deserve. But the thought of deleting pictures, changing routines, explaining the breakup to friends, and going back into the dating world feels heavier than the weight of an unfulfilling relationship. So instead of releasing you, she clings, she stalls. She gives just enough hope to keep you from leaving, but not enough action to actually make things better. It's emotional stagnation, masked as connection. Men often confuse this with effort. You think, she must care if she keeps coming back, or maybe she just needs more time. But what she really needs is the courage to face her fear of being alone. And instead of dealing with that on her own, she uses you as a cushion to soften the fall. I once coached a man who was in a 2-year on and off relationship. Every time they broke up, she'd beg him not to move on. Not because anything had changed, but because the thought of him out there, growing and evolving without her, was too painful. She admitted during one session, "I just don't want to start from scratch again." That was the real truth. Not love, not compatibility, but fear of being alone. You have to understand this. Not everyone who fights to keep you wants to build a life with you. Some are just terrified of being without the routine, the comfort, or the safety net your presence provides. You're her buffer from solitude. You're her distraction from the internal work she doesn't want to do. And as long as you're there, she doesn't have to face herself fully. There's a scene in Castaway where Tom Hanks returns after being presumed dead. His girlfriend has moved on, married someone else, built a life. But when she sees him again, all the old feelings come rushing back. She breaks down, cries, tells him she never stopped loving him. But in the end, she goes back to her new life. Why? Because starting over, again, felt too hard. The past was familiar. The future was too uncertain. That's how many women operate in emotionally broken relationships. The comfort of what was outweighs the risk of what could be. But that's not a reason to stay. Not for her, and certainly not for you. A woman who stays out of fear will never build from love. Her decisions will be made from anxiety, not inspiration. And you'll forever feel like you're holding up a house that no longer fits you both. When she won't let go because she's scared to face the unknown, walk. That's her journey, not yours. She wants the emotional benefits without the commitment. Some women won't let you go because they figured out how to get the best emotional parts of a relationship without having to fully show up for one. They enjoy your loyalty, your check-ins, your emotional availability, but avoid giving you the same in return. To them, you're the emotional version of a subscription, always there when needed, easy to pause when not. She doesn't want the title, the responsibilities, or the effort, but she does want the comfort of having someone who cares. You become her safety net, her late night call, her emotional fallback when things with other guys fall apart. And when you ask for more, commitment, clarity, consistency, she suddenly becomes confused or not ready. Yet she doesn't let you leave, because she doesn't want the relationship, she wants the relational perks. This is modern emotional freeloading. It's common in today's dating world, where people want connection but avoid commitment. And if you're a solid man, grounded, emotionally intelligent, dependable, you become a magnet for women like this. You're different. You listen. You care. So she locks you in emotionally while keeping her options open physically and romantically. A man I worked with was in exactly this situation. For over a year, they were just talking, no title, no exclusivity. But she expected relationship-level effort. He helped her move apartments, paid for dinners, gave her emotional support through personal losses. But every time he brought up defining the relationship, she'd say, "Let's just keep things how they are." What she meant was, "I like the emotional support. I just don't want to be held to the same standard." You have to recognize when you're being used as emotional filler. If she runs to you when her day is bad, but disappears when yours is, she's not building with you, she's feeding from you. If she expects you to be consistent while she gets to be chaotic, it's not balance, it's manipulation. Look at the movie Her, where the main character falls in love with an AI voice. It gave him all the emotional presence, the comfort, the affirmation, but none of the real-world accountability. That's what this dynamic feels like. You're dating someone's emotional representative, not their full self. She gives you just enough to keep you hooked, but not enough to build anything real. What makes this hard for men is that it feels like a relationship. You're talking every day, you're supporting each other, you've shared intimate moments, but when you zoom out, you realize there's no real commitment, no forward motion, just emotional transactions that leave you more drained than fulfilled. You don't exist to fill someone's emotional void while they explore their options. You're not an emotional side dish while she waits to commit to someone else. You're a man, not a placeholder. If she wants boyfriend-level energy without offering commitment-level clarity, she's not undecided, she's using you. Walk. Don't ask for permission. Don't wait for her to change. When a woman won't let you go, it's not always about love. It's often about need, control, fear, or convenience. If she truly valued you, she'd meet you where you are, grow with you, and choose you without conditions. But when she keeps you close only to use your energy, your strength, or your presence without offering something real in return, it's time to free yourself. Your life is too important to be lived in emotional limbo. Let go of anyone who only holds on to you out of fear of what they'll lose, not out of love for who you truly are. Attraction isn't about chasing, convincing, or performing, it's about becoming. When you embody presence, emotional awareness, and quiet confidence, you create gravity that draws women in, even those who weren't interested at first. You shift their emotional state, spark their curiosity, and speak to parts of them most men never touch. The right energy doesn't beg, it invites. And the moment you stop needing approval and start owning your space, you stop being one of many and become unforgettable. Attraction isn't given. It's earned through how you live, lead, and listen. Master that, and you won't need to chase any woman again. And remember, if you're serious about mastering the dating game, don't miss out on my exclusive online course. We go beyond what's covered in these videos, giving you powerful insights from the first approach to lasting attraction. It's easy to enroll with a secure payment option. Visit stoicapproachtolife.podia.com or simply click the link in the description to secure your spot. Don't wait until it's too late. Take action now and start transforming your dating life today. I want to especially appreciate you for taking your time to watch till the end of this video. I hope the video helps you improve every aspect of your relationship with women. Until next time, this is Stoic Approach to Life.